But it seems to me that as a network operator, I would enjoy the fact that I could look at the calendar and know that Thanksgiving starts on that day, and for the next few months, it's a drive toward Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that I would be looking at sellout or increasing the value of my available display inventory the closer I got to that Thanksgiving weekend, for example. Return to school, kids to college for the high-tech advertisers. I mean, are there not inherent deadlines, intrinsic deadlines in the cycles of life and buying and commerce?
Absolutely. When you have unique, yes, there are these different endpoints that you can use in order to create the content, to create, as Keith Kelson would say, to create a continuity of content throughout the seasons. But unfortunately, that is also when everybody else is doing their things. So when Christmas time comes around and everybody wants to get the consumer spend, it's very hard to break through that noise. It's much different when you have this kind of created event that you can have a cutoff point for. Mm-hmm. So I think if network operators specifically can leverage their unique locations and the events that are happening around those locations. Remember, it's all about the location, right? And who's there. So what are the events that are happening in that area? What are some of the ways that you can say, we're going to see a bump here, we're going to see a bump there? That way, the people that you're talking to might be just a little bit more interested than they would be normally, that's there. So I think that regional events are very, very key. And this is when you see a lot of outdoor advertising do this, or traditional out-of-home do it as well. But if you're able to kind of tap into that, you can build that urgency, get a cutoff date, and then you start to kind of get things through. And then once people do it, and they see it, they see the analytics, they see the results, they really like it. And then the most important thing beyond the analytics is they did it. They did it, so they will probably do it again. They will at least feel like, I can do that, and that's one of the barriers. It sounds so simple, but that's one of the barriers, is people feeling like, I'm never going to be able to figure this out.
Let's cover a lot of territories in a short period of time here. Let's go into analytics. What are advertisers really saying about analytics? Are they looking at the reports?
Oh, man. It depends on what type of advertiser you are, really. I think that if you're doing general branding in-house and you're not farmed out to an agency, I think it only matters to have the analytics done once. At least once a year or something like that, just to know who's there at the time.
And by that you're describing the demographic profile of the likely audience based on extrapolating the view of a couple of locations.
Exactly. If you're, for example, if you're showing some content that's pretty generic, that's just branding, Coca-Cola style advertising. I don't think that you really need to have it for every single campaign, for example, for immediate campaign optimization. I think that unfortunately for that type of advertising, that almost is like an extra barrier, because the advertisers are like, I have to pay attention, and I have to change this and read this whole thing, and they just don't have time, and people just don't have time. So if you're an agency, though, I think the agencies are a little bit different, because they're on the hook, for much more than just, did our branding and profiling raise and things. They're on the hook. So for them, campaign optimization is key. For them, understanding real time, the facial recognition.
When you say they're on the hook, they are fired and hired based on their ability to deliver revenue and brand awareness.
Exactly.
And they are often paid based on their performance as an ad agency, making decisions about where the advertising should take place.
Perfect, exactly. I would have to say that would be the
Let's
case.
go to another territory. Do you think, from your vantage point, what would you say about the degree to which advertisers are really understanding the importance of getting the content right? If we were sitting here 3 years ago, most of the content from advertisers would have been TV ads, 15, 30, 1 minute long TV ads. But it seems to me they're changing radically.
Well, I think they're finally realizing that the dwell time is everything when it comes to your content strategy. That's number one. You could take a TV ad if you have somebody who's standing in front of your screen for a minute and a half. You could have a couple TV ads. Have a little audio? Sure, why not? That would be great. You spent the money on your TV ad already. But I think that dwell time is the most important thing. People talk about relevancy, and that comes second, because really, how can you figure out a relevant message if you don't know how long somebody is going to be there? So dwell time is the most important thing, and that actually helps you to use the other media that you have. If you only have a dwell time of a second, you're in a transit center, somebody comes by the screen for a minute, why not just use your graphic ad from the websites that you've been advertising on? Why not, repurpose something like that really quickly, because that's all they need to see is just flash, flash, flash. So look at the other media that you're using, and I think that that's finally starting to happen, and people are realizing in certain cases I don't need to make new content. In some places I don't really have anything that fits. So I should actually look at it a little bit more and maybe repurpose some of the elements of some of my content. That's kind of one of the things that I think we're seeing.